Agenda approval. Are there any corrections or additions to the agenda tonight? Seeing.
Motion to approve the agenda?
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Minutes from the April 20th work session. Yes?
Not the work session, I'm waiting until the meeting.
Okay, all right. Any corrections or additions to those work session minutes? Chair will entertain a motion to approve those.
I'll make a motion.
Second. Whichever. All right, discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I did send a note to Ken, thanking him for his efforts. It was really, I thought it was really
It was
just
educational.
stellar presentation.
Yeah.
With the
Yeah.
meeting notes, I would like to note two things that I would like to fix before they go online and get approved and everything. After submitted by Jessica Christensen-Bach, Recreation Supervisor WA, it's not an abbreviation, I didn't get a new title, I just had a typo. And also, Councilmember Nichols was virtually in attendance, and I'd like to note that as well. I saw them after I had already put them in the packet, so I apologize.
I'll make a motion with those two changes.
Thank you, Bill. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Open forum.
If anyone on the call would like to speak, you have the opportunity to hit *9 or use the raise hand function on Zoom. And it looks like we don't have one.
All right, very good, thank you. Open forum presentations, no presentations, no unfinished business, new business.
All right. So here with us tonight, we have Jason and Becky. They had a 3-year-old daughter, Brianna, very happy, smiley girl. She used to play all the time at City Park. Her and her sisters would go there and have a ball all the time. I was also told that they learned how to skate at that park. They are looking to continue Bree's legacy through a donation and build assistance, as Bree recently passed away from strep throat. We currently don't have anything in policy that exists to kind of make this happen, so we're looking to you guys to see what your thoughts are, if this is something that you'd like to proceed forward with. Next steps would be taking it to council to get their blessing as well. And I also brought a lot of tissues because I know that this is a very emotional thing. So if you need more, please let me know. But I'm gonna turn it over to them so that they can kind of tell you a little bit more about Bree and the legacy that they'd like to bring to Corcoran's City Park.
Just maybe we need to go to the microphone, is that?
I can bring the mic to you too if that's easier. I don't want to make you stand, so.
It'll be fine. As Jessica mentioned, my name is Becky. This is my husband, Jason. Brianna is our youngest daughter of 3. Our oldest is Cassie. She's 7.5. And Chelsea is 5. And as mentioned, Bree unfortunately passed away just after her 3rd birthday from strep throat. It's a pretty rare and unusual thing. 3-year-olds don't typically get strep throat. Typically, when they do get strep throat, it's quite mild, and certainly there's very few instances where strep throat takes a life. But I would like to talk about Bree a little bit because those are kind of 1 in a million odds. But that's certainly how I don't want Bree to be remembered by. So I spent some time this morning going through. We had 2,400 pictures of her and videos. And honestly, I thought I was going to use them when I was taking them to embarrass the heck out of her at her wedding or maybe prom or whatever other things you envision for your children or maybe my grandchildren someday. We had whittled those down to about 300 where she was actually wearing clothing because she loved to be naked. So I've spent a lot of time crying today going through pictures, but I wanted to share a little bit about Bree, because certainly as her mother, I think she's quite special, but I think it's important for you to hear some of it. Bree loved to sing. She, part of what brought us to the park was she would take a little music class. And after music class, they would come back, and there's that really nice pavilion at the park, and they would eat lunch there. And I'm jumping ahead in my next slide, but Bree loved to sing, and she was actually kind of good at it, but I'm also her mother, so of course I think that. Her favorite song was Fight Song, this is my fight song, yada yada. You couldn't understand any of the words that she sang, but she would sing it top of her lungs through the grocery store. So if you ever at Hy-Vee and you heard a little girl shouting funny noises that maybe sounded like a song, that was my girl. She also loved doing anything where she was with her sisters or with her family. She was her dad's shadow. Wherever he went, she wanted to go with. But the thing that I will most remember about Bree, and the thing that I most want you to take away from this part of the conversation is Bree was maybe the kindest soul that I've ever met. And again, I'm her mother, so I'm very biased, but she was that girl where if you were on the couch and you cleared your throat or you coughed a little bit, she'd jump off the couch and she'd run to the kitchen and scoot her little stool up to the refrigerator and get a glass of water and bring it back. Or if someone sneezed, she'd run and get a tissue. She loved to snuggle on the couch and read books, and she'd always make sure that she covered you up with a blanket and that your toes weren't sticking out. And if you gave her a treat, whether it was slices of apple or cookies or fruit snacks, you better pick something that you liked because Bree always insisted that she share. As a really great example of who she was on her first birthday, you get the cake and you give them a cake and they're all excited, and she took that first bite of frosting and her eyes lit up and she was so excited about it, and I expected her to drop the fork and go after it with her hands. But she was a monkey, so she was standing on our kitchen island, and all the adults were nervously standing around her. And she would scoop up the frosting, and she went to every single person and gave everybody else a bite of frosting before she took her next bite. And then she did get after the cake. Don't get me wrong. But that was Bree. She was so sweet. She was so kind. And she just wanted to share that with everybody else, and she loved being with other little kids, and she loved being with her sisters. You can see some pictures there. She loved to wear her sister's soccer. We had to get her own little cleats. They're way too big, but she had a matching soccer ball for her big sister Chelsea. You can see her in Cassie's hockey gear. She was learning to skate. She insisted on wearing those little roller skates around. And she was a very dedicated grasshopper hunter. But that was Bree. And so, Jess, if you would jump to the next slide. I apologize. I only found 2 pictures because by this point, as I was trying to pull this together, I was starting to fall apart. But when we lost Bree, and some of the fog started to wear off of the grief and the next thoughts of how do we honor her? How do we carry on this legacy of this little girl who's left a hollow place in her heart? The first thing I thought of is what my girls call the dinosaur playground, and that's City Park. That's a picture of them there, little Bree in the front with Chelsea holding on to keep her safe, and Cassie in the back because she could rock it pretty good, and they loved to play on that. And they just loved going there. And like I said before, they would go and eat lunch at the pavilion, and they could run and they could play. And Bree loved the freedom, and I mentioned, was a monkey. She could climb anything, and she loved going down slides. And the skate park, that picture's from January. We were teaching her how to skate, and there was a song, and it's "We Are the Dinosaurs Marching, Marching," and she would sing that song while she tried to learn how to skate. And it seemed so fitting being at the dinosaur playground. And so, as I said, as we started to think about how we could possibly honor Bree, this playground has meant a lot to our family. We've spent a lot of time there. The girls spent a lot of time there. My mom would take them there on a regular basis. She washes them during the day. And admittedly, there's some parts of the playground that we thought could use some spiffing up. And so, we started researching what that could be and where to go, and we found that you had this wonderful plan to make the broader park something truly special, and so that's when we reached out to Jessica and Jessica to discuss if there is a way that we could be a part of it. And I would like to say, in addition to thanking all of you for allowing us to be here to share about Bree and discuss this, I would also like to point out how wonderful Jessica and Jessica have been in our conversations, truly embodying small town Corcoran, Minnesota, that empathy, the compassion, and putting up with two very emotional people coming in and trying to make sense of what has happened and how to communicate what's going on. So thank you.
Putting up is definitely a stretch. They have been nothing but wonderful to work with.
I believe it.
So I do have some information on the next slide, because honestly I wasn't sure where I would be at this point in trying to continue to keep my emotions together. But generally speaking, what we would like to do is bring joy to other families that come to the park, and share and pay forward what the park has meant to our family, and take an opportunity to make it truly something special for those in the community. And we know that's what Bree would want. She would want other little kids to have a wonderful place to go. She would want to share that joy. She would want them to have a wonderful place to be with their siblings and with their family. And we would love somewhere to go that's not a graveyard to remember Bree's spirit, and to take her two older sisters who love her very much and are grieving as badly as we are, in a place that has those happy memories that someday we'll be happy when we think of them, and someday when we think of those and look at pictures won't make us cry so hard. So from a donation resources, Tom, I think you put it really perfectly when we spoke earlier. We didn't want to get ahead of ourselves. We don't have preconceived notions. We certainly haven't gone out and fundraised for a mere concept. But as a general idea, we would like to make a financial donation between some of our personal funds, and we've had a number of people within our personal and professional communities reach out wanting to contribute to a memorial. So it's somewhere in the range of $100,000 or more, as well as Jason and I both work for large corporations headquartered here in the Twin Cities that are wonderful and have volunteer PTO hours, and we've had folks reach out to see if there was something we could do to set up volunteer events. And we're in the engineering and contracting business, so we could probably be at least somewhat helpful. From a request standpoint, it feels so cold boiling this down into bullet points, but the thought that we had was, as we bring forward these resources, we want it to go towards enhancing the playground and making it, as I said, something truly special for those in the community, for those other little boys and girls that, I've learned an incredibly horrible and powerful lesson of how short that time of joy can be for children, and for our parents and caregivers around them to experience that joy with them. And we want to bring a place for the families here to have as much of that joy as possible as they can, for as long as they can. We would like to have some remembrance of Bree. some sort of signage or plaque, or maybe naming the playground, something in those lines. Again, we don't have a lot of preconceived notions other than generally, this would be wonderful. And if there was an opportunity for us to provide some sort of feedback as the playground is designed, certainly we don't believe ourselves to be qualified playground designers, and there's definitely a process where you get public feedback. But if there was an opportunity for my girls to point at a couple things in a brochure and say, these are my favorites, that would be certainly very touching and meaningful for us.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
this wonderful family, in this very grieving process, reached out because they want to give back to a park that had such an impact on their family. And so it's coming to you guys to see if that's something that you would be interested in pursuing. After this, it would go to council, and then likely back to you guys once we have more of a defined course of action, I guess.
So
Which
this
again, sounds so cold.
This is just to approve, right? To approve that? Or is
Just to
this,
get your guys' feedback, and then we'll bring it to council based on what you guys say about it.
Mhm.
You could recommend council approve working with the family. If you're looking for a more formal motion. Or
And we have no policy right now,
there's
so
no policy in place.
broader discussion is,
Mhm.
would this turn into some sort of policy?
Mhm.
So I think we have two things. One would be this request,
Mhm.
and then what do we do going forward if we set the precedent? What type of policy do we need in place so that we can accommodate these things? Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I believe there is a policy for Memorial Garden. Don't we have a policy for
This is for city.
bench dedication?
Right, yes.
So this isn't really a whole new policy. This would be an expansion of an existing policy to a broader set of locations.
Right. And we're working on doing the memorial, like, bench and bricks and updating that. I would say that this doesn't really fall in the same wheelhouse.
And I don't say that to limit the scope. It's
No,
more-
no, but I
This
did
is-
want
This is
to,
ground that the city has consciously decided to allow in the past in other areas. This is just a much greater expansion of what that might entail.
and we had, I think you guys had discussed at one point expanding the memorial benches and everything to further, like, trails and
Mhm.
in parks and such, but, I would note, we had discussed if a bench was kind of an option, and that wasn't really the idea that they were looking for. Looking more for, like Becky said, either like a sign or naming the park or helping pick out equipment. So kind of getting your guys' feedback and all of that.
Well, I have an idea as I was listening, and she referred to it as the dinosaur park. I don't know if you guys as kids, but that's exactly what my kids referred to it when we used to go to the park.
Everyone loves the dinosaur.
Mhm.
So that you're saying, as we redevelop
Mhm.
the playground,
You could even-
that would be an ongoing theme.
You could even have it be a dinosaur park. You
Mhm.
could have it be, incorporate different dinosaurs, so it truly is like a bigger dinosaur park.
My son would love a dinosaur park also.
Your son was a dinosaur in the lobby with the guys.
He was already planning a dinosaur park with you. You can go ahead, of course. You were gonna say
I was gonna, do you guys have thoughts on what you would want to have happen with the park? Have you given that some thought yet? In terms of what would you want? I know the park has seen better days, so
Yeah.
is there things you've already, yeah, design-wise, or you'd love to see a new statue of a dinosaur, or, boy, we could use a sitting area or something? And that's fine if you haven't gone through that yet.
To be honest, we've been hurt so much lately that we want to get our hopes up by exploring.
Sure.
Exploring too far what could be, we mentioned to our other two daughters the potential of maybe a playground and maybe getting to pick something, and since then they've been pointing at everything at every playground that they like best. So we have more pictures than our children, which is a wonderful thing. But no, we hadn't thought of, we certainly said we don't consider ourselves qualified to design playgrounds other than having children who love them, but if we could paint our ideal picture, it would be the Brianna Aspeset playground, and it would keep the dinosaur themes. Her favorite color was purple. That happens to be one of the park colors, right? Purple and green were her two favorite colors. And so I can't be more articulate
Oh, that's good.
than that vision
Thank you.
of, we would love that, and we would love to have, the signage say something about Bree's kind and giving spirit and wanting to give back to all children, and something more beautiful than what this engineer can come up with.
Okay. I think this is a good idea, and I think we should handle this as a one-off request with the idea of getting a more robust policy going forward, or adding on to the bench policy. Because I don't think we would have time necessarily to build all that out. And I know there's no real timeline for this, but this seems to be like a special request. So I feel like we should be able to handle this and then start thinking about what we do going forward. Because what we don't necessarily want to do is set the precedent that every park is up for, as long as you bring us a request, as long as it's a reasonable request, then we'll name it, we'll change it. So I would prefer to handle this as a one-off thing and make it known that we may not do this going forward, and we'll have a policy soon.
So one thing, one idea I was thinking about, and it probably is not quite in the full scope of maybe what they're looking to do, but I was in DC recently, and on the boardwalk they had these swings, but it wasn't just like a park swing, it was like these big, huge wooden swings that like people could sit on with like their kids or whatever, and people, like, they loved them. I sit on them for a little bit, and as soon as my husband like stepped off, there was like little kids, and they were so excited to sit on these swings, and it was just kind of, I thought, cool that, swings are a lot of times just a singular person, that families or whoever could sit on these swings together. So when I saw this come up, I thought maybe something like that, either in conjunction with this or just in general for the park. I thought that would be something fun to kind of, so families or whoever can sit, or siblings or whatever can sit and swing together. So that was just one of the thoughts I had. And then you could always like add, like her name on it or something, or some dinosaurs or something like that. So that's my thought.
So as I thought about it, Becky, you're talking about Bree was really helpful. You used the words kindness, joy, reading, snuggling, sharing, sweet, sisters, naturalists, all of those words. Any park that carried through those themes would be just a wonderful park. That would be anytime, anywhere. And to consciously, I think, use those descriptors to help us make choices about what the redevelopment looked like, I think would serve us really well, and would be just a wonderful, think of it as a memorial to Bree, and the wonderful qualities that even as a little kid she had. I think that we want to do something that's going to look relevant, and this isn't going to be revised for 25 or 50 years, and so trying to make something that will pass the test of time is tricky, and we will need to be really careful about it. This there's a way in which we could fall into something of a trap of sort of the TV show of the tragedy, and we don't want to do that for sure. We'd like this to be probably more understated, very carefully done, very, very well done, so that the people will just appreciate what the gift is and what Bree brought to the world in her life. That's where I go with it. We've always had received, the only other park we've ever designed is Wildflower, and we had just a lot of citizen input. That's expected. It's your park, and you guys have special interest, and I would expect that we would receive your suggestions and your help just open-heartedly. The way we received the suggestions of everybody from Wildflower, that would not be a change in the way that we've done things in the past. I think we can do this really quite wonderfully. What would you like from us?
If you guys are looking to make a more formal motion, recommending people move forward with, if we're going with Commissioner or Vice Chair Christensen's suggestion of a one-on process, you guys kind of making the recommendations, kind of what is your?
I'll make a motion to use Vice Chair Christensen's suggestion of a singular park dedication. And then later we can review a formal policy, but present that to council. Did I say that right? Okay.
Could we then add it to the agenda later to get a copy of the current dedication for the Memorial Garden? So that we could expand on that if we wanted to go down the road of building out a more robust policy.
Yes.
Okay.
So we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Further discussion? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have a motion.
Thank you both for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
You're more than welcome to stay if you want. You certainly don't have to.
If we go now, we can make it.
Yeah, go snuggle, go snuggle.
Thanks for coming in.
And if you guys are planning some fundraisers and stuff, maybe you can pass that information on to Jessica, if that's okay?
Let's connect maybe next week.
Because I would just like to hear about that.
And then, do you want me to share this at the end of the meeting? Yes.
Sorry. My kids love We Are the Dinosaurs too. It's a fun song.
It's my son-in-law. He's been fighting this depression for the last, and he wouldn't say who the child was, but when I talked to you, I knew immediately who it was. So he's having a rough time, and I know that it's just very hard to see him in that state, because he's a big, tough cop. So he thinks about her all the time, I can tell you that. I will do that. I will do that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Just for babies.
Bye-bye.
Let's just take a minute and kind of sit quietly a second. Gather ourselves. ourselves.
No. I didn't think I ever needed. Oh my God, I could see that.
They're so kind.
All right, item D, Corcoran Meat Locker.
Okay, very different, very different.
It's quite a jump.
So during the April 13th city council meeting, the city council had the owners of the Corcoran Meat Locker come in and they inquired if the city would be interested in purchasing the land. And during that meeting, the city council requested that the owner get an appraisal done and connect with possibly the 1050 Club as well for a stronger purchase proposal. Then on April 20th at the Parks and Trails Commission, there was a request by Councilmember Nichols and Chairperson Anderson to add the topic to this meeting. Currently, upon talking with planning, there's no indication from the landowners that they would be pursuing a city purchase agreement at this time, as they haven't come back with any appraisal. If they were to come back, staff recommendation from Public Works and the Planning Department would be to not utilize park dedication funds, as that would require strictly park use for the land, and they were looking at other alternatives such as intersection improvements and potentially a buffer between the park and that intersection. As far as the buffer goes, I don't know if that would still count as park. I would assume that it would, but it would limit some of the uses for that area. So at this time, as far as this is concerned, I don't necessarily need a motion, but I was bringing it back because it was requested, and to provide a little more information and see if you guys had any feedback that you wanted to provide. But that's all I have on it at this time. Unless.
So which plot of land are we talking about?
Where the 1050
Triangle.
Club is
Is it
and
the whole corner?
It-
or
it's
just that
in the
one?
main
Okay,
lot
and then
there.
the other one is the 1050.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, we're losing Meister Field, correct, in our big plan?
As it's currently sketched out, in some phase, future phase, it would just.
In the future, but not as part of the first phase. I want to say that turns into the Great Lawn, the big green space.
We haven't gotten the appraisal yet, right?
I'm sorry.
There's been no appraisal.
Nope, they haven't come back yet.
Would, oh, go ahead.
This would be probably come back a lot more expensive than open land. So this would probably be a pricey addition to our park, is my first thought.
Yeah.
it really isn't worth anything. Ann.
It's not good
I was
plan.
gonna say.
It can't be updated. If anybody purchased either one of those buildings,
You can't do
the
anything with
updates
them anyways.
would be so
Yeah.
ridiculously expensive that they really kind of are at a point where they're
Okay.
kind of like worth that little.
Yeah, so
corner.
that should be reflected in the appraisal then, so it
Yeah.
might not be that pricey, okay.
And I think Hennepin County has some pretty big easements as far as like how far they go into the roads too, that cuts down like the parking lot area.
Okay.
But would that area be big enough for like a small amphitheater? Like if you had it, no?
I don't know that you'd want to put an amphitheater that close to
Mm-mm.
the road. That should be
I'm
very
trying to
road.
think
That's a
where-
dangerous, that's a
Well,
very
like, I don't
dangerous
mean
road
right
right
on the
there.
corner, but like if you did it where the field was and then had that just as available space behind it. I don't mean like put it right there, but if that was part of the whole piece and that's where the Great Lawn is, I just can't visually like see if that would work or not.
It would be tricky if you put an amphitheater there. I mean, it's nice because it kind of goes
Into the
goes
whole
out,
park.
But
right.
I don't know that I would want to put an amphitheater that close to county roads.
Okay.
Especially
Even if it was
that-
in the park,
that
like where
angle.
Meister Field is. 'Cause I'm not saying put it in that triangle, it would just be, that would be like the background
But that would be the backstop.
with trees and whatever. I don't know, I just was a suggestion if it was something that would,
Well, I think you're getting to a good point, which is what would we do with it if we had it? If it's gonna just be a lawn, then,
right.
well, I don't know. It'll probably end up a lawn anyways.
And the county could take a bunch of it at some point, so
It would really be
personally
nice
don't
if
see
they
any
made
reason.
that that something with the traffic there. Because with the housing developments over there, with the park going right there, you're turning on, the county came out and evaluated it, and they made a little tiny turn lane. Try and drive that one time in the morning.
Yeah.
You're gonna kill yourself one day. It's a bad, bad corner.
Bad corner. It's not
Very
gonna get any
bad,
better, is it?
very bad corner. And, you know, large trucks or anything, they can't turn. A lot of them will go right through the parking lot at the 1050, it's a bigger swing. And that's not, it's not paved, it's just mud.
And even if the land is cheap, you gotta tear down that building, possibly remediate something.
And you gotta, you know, that's a butcher shop, he shot the cows there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So he slaughtered, it was a slaughterhouse. In order to improve that, you couldn't get anyone in there to improve it. First off, you can't find a meat cutter, but secondly, in order to get that all out of there, it would be spendy.
For a small piece.
Yeah, and they live in the
Yeah.
1050.
That
They,
was-
they live in the 1050. There's people living there.
An apartment up top, or somewhere in there, okay.
I'm not saying anything, I'm just saying there's habitants there.
I personally don't see us having any use for it. That's-
That was kind of my thought when I heard
If they
it,
could
talk
give
of
us a
it.
good idea of what we would do with it, then I might be interested.
Yeah.
Maybe a sign for the park, I can't really.
It would be a great roundabout.
Yeah.
So I will say, we can have one monument sign on each parcel of land, so that'd be a
Well, there you go.
monument sign.
It's tempting.
Is the land worth the sign to you?
Yeah.
Maybe it was donated? I don't know.
That photo even actually
Yeah,
makes
I
it look
think
spacious.
Yeah.
If it was being donated, we didn't want it,
Mhm.
because
The
the
demolition.
donation would include that we have to take
Deal
care of
with
it,
this,
assuming
yeah.
so. Yeah, if there's any cost to this, it's probably too much.
All right, not hearing a motion, we will move on to the next item, which is the Red Barn Pet Retreat.
Yes, so created as part of Bellwether Second Edition was this 14.89 acre outlot.
I thought I shut it off. I apologize.
On the 2040 comp plan,
I turned the volume down earlier. Judy saw me.
on the 2040 comp plan, it shows 2 on-road trails and 1 off-road trail. The on-road trails do not actually count towards park dedication, and the on-road trails would be factored into necessary right-of-way to be taken as part of the plat. The 1 off-road trail was already part of the Bellwether development, so that's set. So at this point, staff recommendation is to take cash in lieu of land for an expected approximately $15,000. This will give you a little bit better of a view of kind of the area. This was, I tried to pull this from the packet. This is the proposed development. If you, down here.
So
So do they
where's
plan
the-
on, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Do they plan on building on that corner compared to where they are now?
That is my understanding.
Was that was the location as we exited today, on the left, right? Okay, I'm just trying to, like, get an aerial in my head, okay.
See, when I went out and went down Steve and
Okay.
past Red Barn and
The opposite.
under the dirt,
Okay.
just to look. you know.
Where are the existing trails, did you say, along there? You said Bellwether. So is there,
The other two would come down the road, they would be on-road trails,
okay.
An on-road trail, that's basically just a little extra road, right?
essentially.
So I'm certainly fine with taking cash and move any land. I did, yeah, the description of the property has some wetland areas, a little bit of which is pretty good. And in their description, they talked about adding trees and such. I think that would really be nice to encourage that to be done in a really kind of sensitive way, so as to not be filled all with invasives. my usual rant. That there are lots of ways to do that, and we should be able to, if we had a city forester, and a city naturalist, we could really help them make with some selections. Too old. But no, I would, absolutely be happy to walk the property, and I really, when you corner me, I lack specific suggestions, but to think about, to do it that way as opposed to just whatever is cheapest and available in Home Depot, I think you'd be served, the city would be served very well by having that be done in a careful way. We don't have a lot of that higher quality wetland, and we should do what we can with it. I don't know that we've got any carrots to offer the development. We could at least make it be known that we'd be happy to visit with them about it.
Good question.
Yes?
Is this, that neighborhood right next to where the blue lines are, is that where the Diamond Lake Trail is gonna wrap around that we were talking about at the park today?
Kevin said it was gonna proceed to the north,
Okay, all right, thank
so
you.
that should be to the west of.
Okay.
Any other discussion? So Chair would entertain a motion to recommend that we take cash in lieu of land.
I'll make a motion for cash in lieu of land.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second, thank you. Further discussion. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. City Park Consultant Subcommittee Representative. That is the longest title you've ever done. That's excellent.
I wasn't, honestly, I thought about how to make it any shorter, and it just wasn't clear.
It just rolls off the tongue.
You're welcome, I think is what I'm supposed to say. During the April Parks and Trails Commission meeting, staff informed the commission that they were looking to obtain a consultant to assist with park planning. This would help with reviewing ways to accelerate projects, creation of park planning templates so that we can, like I said, accelerate those projects. Once we have a standard, we can continue to utilize that. And general park planning as well. So City Park would be included in that. So at this point, staff is looking for a commission representative to help with consultant selection. This wouldn't necessarily be the park planning process, but to help get us the consultant that would then help us with the park planning process.
So is this subcommittee done once the consultant is chosen?
Correct, and then we would likely come back as a group.
Yeah.
Plan the park.
I'll nominate anyone besides myself.
I was looking at it.
I saw that.
Who's gonna nominate you, Phil?
As vice chair, I have way too many responsibilities.
Bill showed up
You
because
can
the last
see-
time he didn't show up, he got nominated
Yeah.
as vice chair.
So he's gonna be here every time.
See, it'll be perfect for you.
You have a commissioner who is not present that could be nominated.
Oh, the new guy.
The new guy.
I don't know his name, I apologize. Greg, I think his name was.
Here,
Here, I was calling.
Gary Ernst, I hope I'm saying it right. But I will say, keep in mind that Gary has,
Limited.
I'm not sure he knows a lot about the
No
park.
park experience.
I thought Jackson was nominated, so I was gonna tell him.
may have consultant experience, so you don't know.
I would be willing to sit on the committee.
Excellent.
Yay.
Thank you, Commissioner Dietrich. I will probably need a motion.
I make a motion.
I'll second that.
I second.
Further discussion? I think that's wonderful. I've sat on selection committees a couple of times, and it's pretty fun. Yeah, it was enjoyable, and it was a good conversation, and you've got significant experience with Parks and Trails.
Well,
You have your own particular take on what Parks and Trails ought to do. So you get to listen to somebody describe what they think Parks and Trails are about. And if they're describing, somebody else's Parks and Trails system and not Corcoran's, that's important to really be clear about that. This is fun, not perfection. These parks are for fun. So that's what we're about. Yeah, thank you. There was a motion and a second, and all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Michelle.
And
Thank you.
to clarify,
Yeah.
what else did you say?
I technically, yeah, I did. before.
Okay, I didn't know if you came before too. Okay.
Whatever she's in.
No, thank you.
Garden Club purchase request.
All right, I'll give a quick spiel and then I'm sure someone else here might have more to say. The Garden Club is looking for $750. It's a purchase request. They'd like to purchase some, it says plants, it's supposed to say plants. For the Memorial Garden, the variety of plants is to be determined based on availability and what would look nice together with that availability, and I'm sure a whole bunch of other factors that my not green thumb does not possess. So for that reason, I will hand it off to Tom, who I'm sure has a lot more information about.
Well, just the, last year, the Garden Club got kind of the left side of the park replanted and the back side replanted. That leaves some in the front and then some on the right-hand side to do. And we also can see some holes in the garden, that need to be filled. And we just go over to Grove Nursery, we have wholesale prices that are really good. And it's good stock. It fits well within Corcoran's and stuff. Developers use it. It's not exotic by any means. It's good, sturdy, hardy, kind of regular plants. Suits them very well. We also will probably purchase a little bit of supplies. We also put some green down before we started doing that, so that would be included in that. I don't think we'll spend $750.
Maybe that one. You get these back.
Oh,
So you need a motion to beautify
yes.
Memorial Garden?
Yes, please.
I will make a motion up to $750 for
Should we review the
project.
finances beforehand?
Yeah.
Make sure it's
Yeah,
not too much.
we don't care if he's gonna plant it, we're gonna give
Yeah.
it.
I'll second that.
Exactly. Further discussion? The garden budget's something over 11,000, so.
Yeah.
Good.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, active planning applications. Anything that you want to talk about there, commission members?
I guess I don't know if it's in here, and I looked at this, but remember the warehouse district that was gonna go in over off of, what was it, Larkin? Did that all fall apart and done?
Corcoran Farms,
I don't
The
remember what it
approval
was.
is still valid, but we heard rumblings that they did not have people who wanted to build. So it may end up lapsing.
Gotcha. Okay. That was, it was called Corcoran Farms, is that what you, okay, I put these names on them. Okay.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much. Recreation supervisor update.
That'd be me again.
What you been up to?
So I'd like to backtrack and just provide the history as to why I give you guys an update, because I was going through the minutes the other day. Did you know that it's actually been going on for over 5 years? Because it started when you guys were looking for a recreation supervisor, and it was Brad providing an update on his process to acquire one. And then he just had it continue. So now you just get the me show all the time. So you kind of did this to yourselves.
Go for it, sunshine.
You're welcome. So, big things that I've been working on, meeting with Three Rivers. We met up on site to look at a portion of the Diamond Lake Regional Trail that's going in Tavera. So that was really interesting to see it all cut out. It did not look quite like our work session because it was actually dirt there, not the vegetation, so it was even cooler. Working on night to night stuff, I've got Jackson helping with donations a lot, and I think he is working on a coloring page, so don't worry, your children get something special. Parks and Trails materials, the items in your packet. Social media transition, we have a communications assistant. I'm very excited because it means that I get to hand off a good portion of that social media and digital content creation to someone who can take it and run with it and do something really good with it. And then park reservations have also been huge. This is probably our best year yet for park reservations, and I feel like I keep saying that every year. But I would have to imagine that in 2 years it'll be even better because the remakes start.
Yeah.
Everyone will be banging on the door trying to get a reservation.
Cool.
And Val, don't think I forgot about soccer. Jackson's got that one.
Oh, gee, all
He
right.
ran the reports and everything for you. But I'd be happy to take any questions.
Jessica, do we know when they're gonna pave any of that trail that you looked at? Is that happening this
In
year?
Tavera, I think they were working to get it done this year, would be my assumption, because they dug it out. The problem is that the soil that they're running into isn't quality, so they have to kind of back up, readjust, figure out what they can do to make the trail functional and functional long-term so that we're not having to replace it.
So sometime when you have a spare time, some spare time, to go back and look at your park reservations and see what it is that people are reserving it for and what we might do as we redo City Park to enhance that sort of feature. This is, if,
Are you talking about the pavilion itself?
whatever park reservations you're taking,
Okay.
just so that we can keep that in mind, that this is a way, people vote with what they reserve. I mean, they're saying, this is something at the park that I want to use, I'm willing to pay money for it. Maybe it means we should have more of it, or it should be, we can think about that carefully as we're redeveloping the park to really enhance that part of the park system.
I would say cricket, baseball, birthday parties, and Memorial Day celebrations, like holiday celebrations.
First one was cricket?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I believe we are a home field for a team, maybe even 2 teams.
Is that a new trend? And
Oh yeah,
I get a lot
we've
of
had,
questions
yeah,
about cricket.
really?
uh-huh. People have been interested. I think we've had at least 1 or 2 groups using those fields for 4 years. They just started reserving them this year though, so it's progress.
They've asked for a concrete pitch. I don't know what that means for cricket. But that might be something to think about as part of the
Yeah,
development plan.
They're out there all the time.
it can be as simple as mowed in, but they would want
And
They have portable ones as well.
oil.
there's somebody out there all the time. There's somebody, I was saying, there's somebody out at that park all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter whether they're reserved or they don't reserve, it's always got people in it.
It's one of the biggest fields that they can find.
Oh.
And doesn't have the fence on the
Oh,
outfield.
sure,
and
okay.
They said it works really well for what they need it for.
Cool.
And I like to see it get used, because that's our most underused one.
Absolutely. All right, anything else?
Again.
All right, Jackson, program coordinator.
Thanks, Chair Anderson. Yeah, so baseball's been the name of the game recently. Photo nights were last week, kiddos going everywhere. Went smoothly though, beat the rain, which was very close one night. We basically got a game, told them to go through, get their pictures done, went back to the game just in case of getting rained out. So I wasn't the nice guy when I went over to them halfway through the game and said, "You're getting your picture taken right now." We got it done.
It's gonna rain.
Then working to plan the end of the season, equipment return, just ordered medals for the kiddos this week. Yeah, soccer prep, we currently have 307 kids registered. U6 has 78 kids and they're 35% resident. U8, 93 kids, 37% resident. U10, 80 kids, which is full, and that's 36% resident. And U12 is full, 56 kids, and 28 of them, so half, are resident. So
Oh, we are bringing that up to our community.
that was very high.
Wow,
So
that's great.
that's good to see.
Yeah.
Currently working on finding referees for soccer, and also trying to convince some parents to step up and coach, which can be a challenge at some levels more than others. Night to Unite, as Jessica noted, I am currently working on trying to get some donations from area businesses to help out with the city party. And I'm working on the coloring sheet, so the whole city gets to see my artistic abilities get distributed, which will be interesting. We're currently working on some handbooks for baseball and soccer, which will just put like the rules, policies, and maps kind of all in the same place so we can distribute them at the beginning of the season to all the parents and players. And it'll just make consistency between seasons and for staff, so that way every single season has the same decisions and the same rules in place. And finally, we're kind of working on getting some program surveys made, so we'll start sending them out after the baseball and soccer seasons, just to get feedback on our programs, what's working well, what's not working well. We don't see everything when it comes to like coaches and whatnot, so then we kind of get some opinions from parents and whatnot on what works well. So be happy to take any questions.
I have a question. What's the highest number we've ever had for our soccer participants?
I want to say 455.
Okay.
Right now it's at 307. It closes on Memorial Day, so about 2 more weeks still, to a week and a half for registration still. So we sent out a reminder to one of our mailing lists, and we got like 20 registrations right after that. So the little nudge helped bunch it up.
When does it start?
The first or second week of July?
July 6th.
First week of July.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. I'm thrilled to see our community kids getting in there.
I thought you'd be so thrilled
I
about the
am.
50%.
I am, yeah. That's huge.
We were off camera when I
Quite a few fist bumps, yes.
So Jackson, are you having a good time?
It's been great so far. It's been really good. No big problems. Everybody I've worked with has been great, right in the office and out in the community. Baseball's been going really well, getting to meet all the coaches and players and families, and it's been going really well. They're all great people, so no big complaints. I haven't ran away yet. So.
Good.
Pat's been holding up his end of the bargain, keep the field mowed and
I did get to meet Pat at cleanup day.
Okay.
Pat lived up to the expectation, but the fields have been in great shape. The park's been in great shape too. So
that's good.
They work hard.
Yeah, they're good. All right, well, thank you. Thank you both. All right, city council report. Your turn.
So I reviewed the list of past meeting high points, and I found a few that I thought might be of some interest to you folks. First, the Cook Lake Highlands PUD amendment came back a second time and ended up getting approved, which means that there will be some additional park dedication collected, about $150,000. Additional funds will be coming in this year. We also got some good news on our project to improve Hackamore Road. That is likely to begin construction in the week of July the 4th and complete by the end of this year. Might be some touch-ups next year as well, but that will include sort of an on-off-road trail component, which for those of you who like being on trails will create sort of a loop between Gleason and Hackamore, and then a little bit either through the Ravinia Trail Network, and on the west side, probably either through Tavera, where that will cross 116, or directly across at 116. So we'll have our first closed loop trail, which will be really nice to see. Hopefully we can set up a 5K there at some point, and we can have a city event. Cool. Which would be great. I didn't see anything else that I thought you would be interested in, but maybe I'm wrong. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to speak to anything that you see or have heard.
You've had any number of work sessions. What have you been working on?
There's been a lot of work focused on tuning up the development ordinances. So the buffer yard ordinance actually did get implemented, which means that now where we have adjacent zones of different land use intensity, there are required setbacks in the more intense zones. Meaning, for example, if you live on a rural residential parcel and somebody wants to put in a industrial parcel adjacent to you, there's a buffer yard limit that sets a distance and a screening level that would be required based upon how much more intense that zone is than the one that you're in. So that helps to deal with some of the issues that we have in the comp plan where we don't have adequate transition zones. We don't, step logically from industrial to high density to medium density to low density. There's a lot of commercial adjacent to residential without any kind of transition. So that's a mechanism to deal with that and make it easier for existing residents. The second thing that we've been working toward is a rental ordinance, which is intended to ensure that there's a larger trend across the U.S. where money in search of yield purchases single-family homes and puts them up for rent. And in some areas, that can be a pretty significant part of the housing stock, up to 20% in some areas. And that has the knock-on effect of making homes less affordable because more of them stay off the market and are dedicated as rental. So part of what the ordinance does is it limits large institutional ownership of significant numbers of single-family homes in the city. The second thing that it does is it places the density cap on how many homes in a given area can be put up for rent. So there'll be a license that's required to have a rental, and the number of licenses will be limited by block. So depending on how many other homes are rented on a block, there could be a limit on how many licenses are available.
How do you determine who gets licenses?
It would be first come, first served.
So when it fills up?
That would be it until something is taken off the rental market in that specific area.
What's an institutional owner considered?
It's not defined as institutional. It's defined as no entity, meaning person or legal entity, can hold more than 3 rental licenses. It might actually go up to 5. I'd double check the final version there.
Do we have a problem with rentals in the city right now?
We don't today, but we do in neighboring cities. So it's been a significant issue in Maple Grove and Plymouth. It's likely that it's only a matter of time before we would start to see it here as well. There was one development that was originally proposed to a city council in our immediate area that was originally set as single family, owner occupied, then the entire development converted into a rental community without city approval. So this would help too.
Wouldn't this also limit, we're probably getting off parks, but wouldn't this limit apartments and other specific rental?
It's focused only on single family homes.
Okay.
So apartments would be, there would still be rental licensure, but there's not a cap. And there's not a limit on number of units owned.
Okay.
So it focuses rental on traditional rental property types rather than single family.
Okay, thank you.
I got a question. On that Cook Highland or Cook Lake Highland, where that Applewood was gonna be, now that's an apartment building? Is that correct? Or
The request that they made was, can we change this from a senior co-op to a senior rental?
So it is senior?
It's still limited to senior, but it's a rental apartment. There's no owner.
And there's how many units?
Originally was 100, and the city council approved an increase to, I believe, 146. The overall building footprint is staying the same, height is staying the same, they're just making the units inside the building smaller to get to the larger number.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Corcoran's still a busy place.
It is.
Yeah, you guys are doing hard work on those work sessions. Garden Club report. Well, the tree giveaway was, we met since the tree giveaway? Yeah, it was good. It was a nice day. We had the Garden Club came in and gave the trees away, and that was pretty much best ever. We had a big enough crew that orders had been picked by the time people came to get them. So it was good. We had the kind of the usual number of people who weren't either forgot to come in and pick them up, or were out of town, or I don't know, they moved. I don't know what happened. We had about a dozen orders left.
Did you get them given away then, or?
Well, I've got a few endured at my house yet, but they will disappear. I've been less worried about that. You know, if you got to get your plants, I sent out a note to everybody who didn't pick them up, and then if you didn't get back to me, well, you didn't care. So, free trees. You know. Yeah. All right, so, park dedication fund.
You'll notice there is not a very big change to it yet, aka
We all
there's no
noticed.
change. But our finance team is working really hard with the audit right now, so that's been kind of the main focus. So I was told that once that kind of finalizes up pretty soon here in the next couple of weeks, the next one will hopefully have the interest allocations and be more up to date. So we appreciate your patience. The audit is very time consuming
I bet.
across many departments.
Will we be able to get significant interest going forward? Is that one of the things that they were working on improving?
Really good question, and I can certainly ask.
I just keep seeing the 23 cents, and it makes me
Yeah.
sad.
So that kind of significant interest.
Yeah, I'm looking more toward, can we get 40 grand a year in interest that can offset some of the inflation?
All right, other business. Liaison calendar, everybody good with that as it stands?
I'm June 8th, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
I can't do that one.
Oh, let me
Anybody?
see. Right, 'cause
I could do June 8th. Do you want to switch with me?
What are you?
The May 25th?
The what?
May 25th, next Thursday.
Yeah, I can do next Thursday. How much is on the agenda?
How big is the packet?
Yeah, exactly, when they come, it's like.
Did it take 2 cars to deliver it?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I probably will have to log in a little bit late on mine,
On your date?
yeah. So, just
We'll
so you
hold
know.
a meeting for you.
Huh? I don't think you're gonna want to, because my child has soccer and I think I might be coaching, so.
Oh, good job.
I don't know if I can do both.
Soccer doesn't start that early for us.
I know. I know.
I can do
We
your
can talk
June,
about that later.
I can do your June 22nd if you're having a problem with it still.
It's more that like I can, I will be logging on late.
Okay, all right.
I-
Because
if
if
that's
you do want
okay.
somebody to take it, I certainly can do it, but,
Because, yeah, where are you?
oh, it doesn't matter, I don't
August
mind.
24th.
I have no life, I can do it.
The one working late and couldn't make it to our field trip.
I mean, if it's okay that I log on late, it's not a big deal for me to just pop on when I can. But otherwise, if the preference is to have someone on immediately, then.
There's
The
a
one time
liaison
we
for
don't
you.
have somebody there is the time that there'll be a question.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
usually-
exactly right.
Usually when I listen on, you're like, you just know the information anyway. I feel like every
Yeah.
time I've listened to you pretty much. Even when Parks was brought up, I was
So
not so in depth.
When you get close, if there's something that looks like it's gonna be Parks and Trails related,
Then
part of the
maybe,
first
yeah.
night, let us know and somebody will
Yeah.
either that,
Yeah,
either
that's
come
a
in
good
or
idea.
listen
Yeah.
in for you.
Yeah,
So we
otherwise
got
I'll
some
just stay.
coverage. The city council, they like having us.
We do. It gets lonesome up there, as you may be experiencing right now.
Absolutely. All right, any other business? Okay, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion.
Go ahead.
Hey, we got a new one. Motion to adjourn.
Judy, second?
Oh, second?
Second, Lisa.
There we go.
All in favor?
I got some new
Aye.
ones.
Opposed? All right, meeting is adjourned.
I'm seconded the
Did you,
today.
good job.
I'm trying to pay attention to that stuff.
I really apologize.